Morning, everybody. So today I figured we're going to add another ab workout into the mix. So it's a 30-minute session. We're not going to be too long today, but let's really work on just getting our abs fired up and to use it as a quick warm-up for our day. So the first thing I'd like to do is start out with some marches. So grab some bands that you can put on your wrists. Not the heaviest thing that you could possibly find, but we also want to make sure that it's not too light, okay? We want this to give us some challenge without overstressing our shoulders and our arms. All right, so as we start marching, we're going to go with our alternating action of arms going up and arms going out, making sure our shoulder blades don't creep to follow the arms. They're always locked down and moving in the opposite direction or anchoring in the opposite direction. So let's go ahead and start marching. As you're marching, pick your toes up in front. We don't want this. Good. We really want to bring those knees up, but we want to drive length into the ground. Now let's give me those alternating arm actions. And as you're doing this alternating arm action, I want you to feel your ribs and your armpits anchoring down into your abdominals. That's how we're going to start warming up those abs. Another thing to keep in mind is your hand position. Make sure as you're moving your arms, you're not cocking your feet, your elbows, or cocking your wrists and holding tension. We want to drive length through our wrist, through our middle fingers, as we keep those legs moving, lengthening, activating the core. Let's go a little bit longer. Keep the chin a little low. Make sure you're not lifting up to find your height. Keep your hips in front of your ankles. No backwards action. And then let's go ahead and rest. Let your bands come down to your feet. So let's take that same band and you can put it below, so closer to your shins. Or if you need a little bit more assistance or it's a little too hard, you can move it up above your knees, okay? So let's start first with a little jumping jacks, and then we're going to go into some speed skaters. And what I want you to focus on these is making sure that you don't feel any bladder problems. Make sure that you're not fighting the band. I don't want band fight. I want you to be popping length out of your legs, groins, opening as you're doing this. And if that doesn't feel good, then I want you to do the speed skater. And the speed skater is touching one foot out and then back in, other foot out and in. Keep your hips square to the wall in front of you. Good. So now rest. Now that you know that there's your option of going with the jumps or the side steps, now we're going to do a good 25-second set where you're going to choose one or the other. If you can do either, I want you to do the harder one because we're going to do a second set, and that way you can push yourself as hard as you can. So, ready? And let's give me those little jumping jacks, trying to push length out of your knees. Bring the chin down slightly. Whether your arms are bent and you're reaching through your elbows, or they're long and you're reaching through your middle fingers, we want to have intensity with our arms reaching down as they go out. We don't want way up where everything falls apart. We want nice and tight through your abs. And now rest. Let your heart rate come down a little bit. Let your legs shake out. Yes, this is an ab exercise or ab workout today, but we have to make sure our blood's pumping a little bit. We can't just jump right into abs. All right, so let's go ahead and put that band back on if you slipped it off. And this time you're either doing you get a choice again. So whether you're doing the quick one with the jumping jacks or you're doing the side step speed skater, make sure you're always driving length out of the middle of your knees, all the way through your groin, whatever you choose. All right, ready? Let's go for it. If you're doing the bounces, keep those knees nice and loose and long. Feel your shoulders pulling towards the ground with each impact. And then I'm going to give another option, or I'm going to go into the other option of the speed skater, making sure that we're pushing our butts back with each step out, and we're not letting those knees slide forward. We got to really stick that beast butt back. Go. We got about 5, 4, 3, and relax. All right, so we can finally get rid of the band on your legs, but keep it. The next thing we're going to do is going to use the band again, but we're going to use it on our hands. All right, grab a little drink of water if you need it. We're going to go for our first ab activating exercise. And for this one, I want you to imagine that your ribs are staying glued to your straight hips. We don't want at any point your ribs letting the hips bend. We really want to feel that this staying tightened down keeps the hips pushing long. And the thing that you feel the most is pushing length out of your groin through the middle edge of your kneecaps. So I'm going to show you a couple from the front, and then I'll turn to the side. Make sure as you're setting up that your knees are pretty wide. They don't need to be wider than what you would normally sit or squat from, but widen them up so you have some space. Make sure your toes are tucked under and your feet are not flat on the ground. We need your toes tucked under, no toenails touching the floor. And so we're going to put the band on our wrists, and we're going to activate our upper body by pushing a little bit of band tension, but really pulling the shoulders back away from the hands and away from the ears. And so now as we lean back, controlled, as we lean back, we want to keep those ribs anchored and glued into those straight hips, and then we push out of our toes and the middle of our groin to come back up. We drive, as I turn to the side, we're driving length through the middle of our groin as our ribs crunch under, and we keep that tension on the band, and then push to come back up. Pay attention to your head position. Let your chin drop slightly. Think about the back of the neck reaching up towards the ceiling and the wall behind you as your ribs anchor towards the floor, and then push to come back up. We've got one more, guys. Drive length out of the groin, ribs crunching down, shoulders long, and then push to come up. So you should feel that as a nice toe stretch, just as much as you're learning how to anchor those ribs into the straight hips. All right, so we're going to do a elbow plank next. And with this elbow plank, it's going to be a hard style elbow plank. And for this one, I'm just going to give you a quick visualization while I'm in this position. When you're on your elbows and I ask you to get into your plank, I'm going to tell you to slide your, or try to, you're not actually going to move them, but I want you to put tension like you're going to slide your elbows towards your toes, keeping tension through your hand, your arm. Imagining if I come around, I can't pick your arm up off the ground, okay? So not only are you going to push your body away from your elbows, you're also going to pull your toes. You're going to pull yourself closer with your toes. So it's almost like you're going to contract the front of your body without poking your butt up in the air, okay? So I'm going to demo it real quick, and then we'll go into one together. So again, this is just the demo. Hands down, elbows down. Step out into your plank, and then pull the elbows towards the toes, pull the toes towards the elbows, keeping the chest open and the chin pushed away from the ground. And what you're going to feel is this should really engage in, okay? So let's go ahead and do a set, 25 to 30 seconds. It's not going to be very long, but if you need to come out of it any sooner than the end, please feel free to. All right, so elbows and hands on the ground, butt up in the air, knees nice and wide. Go ahead and step those hips out nice and straight. And now pull the elbows toes to toes and the toes towards the elbows as you keep your chin and your chest open and keep pushing them away from the floor. Don't let me lift your hands. Don't let me lift your arms. Keep pushing those elbows down towards the feet. Keep pulling the toe pads up towards your shoulders. 3, 2, and then push your butt up in the air. Sit back. Rest in whatever position is comfortable for you. That might be a shin box. Just make sure that your arms are taking a break, okay? You may use your block, to sit on. I don't care as long as your arms are taking a break here, okay? All right, so our next thing is going to be an elbow plank with a little saw action. And so with this one, instead of the elbows and the feet trying to pull towards each other, you're going to push your body towards your feet and then push your body towards your elbows, then towards your feet, towards your elbows, all without letting your butt poke up or sag down, okay? We need to keep all the energy driving through our abs and the length in our groin. All right, so one more time. Elbows on the ground, butt stuck up out in the air, knees nice and wide, head looking between the elbows. Now let's step on out to those nice straight hips. Bring your focus to between your wrists now to keep that nice neutral spine. Keep your chin chucked away from the ground as your chest pushes away into the mat. Keep trying to push your body back into loose toes and then bounce forward off the toes. Push onto the toes, bounce off, so that all of the action goes towards mobilizing your feet and activating your core. 3, 2, 1. Butts up in the air, knees nice and wide. Sit back into whatever comfortable position you can find. All right, so we're not going to wait long here because our next one is on our back, so we can kind of go straight into it without too much rest. And what I want is for you to have a small yoga block, if possible. If you don't have a yoga block, you could use a small ball, something sturdy. Don't use a cardboard box that might crush underneath the strength between your legs. But let's go ahead and we're going to do our bridges with the block between your legs. And you can choose whether you want the block to be in a wide, a semi-wide, or the most narrow position that the block has. I find in the beginning for beginners it's a little easier to go wider or middle range. But try it during the set and see what works best for you, what gives you most engagement through your glutes and your abs. So let's go ahead and put the block between your thighs. I want your heels to walk in just a little bit so they're just slightly more narrow than the block is. And now I want you to grab your mat with your hands and stretch it so that it activates your lats by pushing the shoulders away from the ears. Anchor those abs into the floor, and now push your hips up and then drop them down while you keep the squeeze on the block and the stretch on your mat. Your goal at the top is to feel those ribs crunching down to zip up into those straight hips, much like you did on that lean back exercise that we did a few minutes ago. And so again, keep energy driving through your abs and your shoulder blades driving down to make sure that you're not holding any tension in those hips. Squeeze as you're trying to push your heels away from you without sliding them. Make sure you're not pulling yourself up onto your heels. You're always pushing yourself up from the heels. Give me 2 more and then we're going to hold up here. Hold it. And now focus on stretching the mat, ribs anchoring down, hips, groins long in the middle, creating an A-frame. Trying to slide your heels without sliding it as you keep that nice length through the hips, shoulders away from the ears, chin tucked, and release everything to the ground. You can go ahead and move your block. And so we're going to go into a side bridge next, so we are going to go onto your elbow on your side, but just take a second here. Let your body relax. When we go on to the side, I want you to use a light band if you've got one around your thighs here, okay? So nothing really strong, so it should be on your lighter side. Either if you've got the same set that I have, it would be red or yellow. But something on the lighter side. And I want it to be right in the middle of your thighs, not too close to your knees, right in the middle. And so now that we have our band around our hips, I want to roll onto your side. I want you to find your butt out in that nice beast butt position out there. I want your hand to be flat in front of you, and I want your feet, ankles, hips, and knees to be stacked on top of each other. And so go from a sloppy shoulder position and now just push everything away from the ground, like my hands right underneath there, and push away from it. Now, drive your hips up and forward and put a little stretch on that band so you can find the length coming out of your groin. And now just push out of your hand as you're lengthening those legs and the groin away from your hip bones. Good. Keep the knees loosely bent as you reach the kneecaps away from the hips. Keep the ribs anchored and pushing away from that imaginary hand right here, chin too. If you feel any tension in your neck, look down to the floor, look up to the ceiling, and find the center with the chin tucked again and see if that helps. Good. We've got it for 10, 9. Keep that hand planted tight on the ground. Don't let me lift it up. 3, 2, push from the elbow to send your butt back and rest. And let's flip it to the other side. Take your time getting over there so that everybody has a chance to get over there and not be on your elbow for too long. All right, so same thing. Find yourself into position, hand flat in front, feet cocked, stacking the feet, the toes, the ankles, the knees, the hips, and sticking your butt out behind you so it's not tucked under or rounded in any way. And so now first, from our sloppy shoulder, push your chest away from the ground as far as you can. And now drive those knees away from the hips while they stay loosely bent. Keep pushing all of your height away from the elbow at the top, but let the hips drop and push forward so that they're not getting into a curved action. Make sure the knees are loose away from each other, putting a little tension on the band, and really driving groin length to form an A-frame position out of your groin. Don't let me lift that hand. Make sure your fingers are all tight to the floor. Good. 5, 4, and now push out of the elbow to stick your butt back and to rest down. Awesome. All right, so let's give me a beast next. And yes, a beast is always going to work the abs, so it never should be skipped in an ab workout. Even though it's not a crunch, it is just as good for engaging those core muscles. All right, so with the beast, let's use a block on your back. Whatever position challenges you, but doesn't fall off as soon as you lift your legs. And if it does, just reposition it and start over again. But if you drop it halfway through the set, just leave it and let it, and just try and keep going, because you'll spend most of the time trying to pick up your block if it keeps falling. All right, so first beast, actually our first and only beast of the day. So I'm going to sit back for a second, sorry. So with this beast, you have a choice. You're either going to be stationary, which is fine. You can do a little bit of crawling, which is fine. If you'd like a little bit more challenge, I'm going to offer the single limb lift option, meaning one arm would lift, one leg would lift, one other leg would lift, one arm would lift. So we're making our way around the body, lifting alternate limbs off the ground. And when you're lifting the limb, you could lift it a hair off of the ground the first time you're trying it. That's fine. If you've done this before, you can work on lengthening the bird dog-ish length position. But just do the hardest thing that you do well. So let's put that block on your back, whatever position it's going to be in. If you have a knot tied in your shirt, good luck. All right, so I want you to melt off your knees, letting your knees push a little bit wider than your hips, letting your toes remain a little bit more narrowed than your knees. And now just lift one hand just a little bit as you push your chin and your chest away from the ground with the other arm. And now try the other one and feel how the weight will go over to the opposite leg of the arm that's on the ground. And now lift one foot just a little bit and feel how most of the weight is on those alternate arm and leg that stay on the ground. And then feel when you lift the other leg, same thing happens. Perfect. Let's go one more time around, guys. Make sure your butt is behind your knees slightly. And if you'd like to lift that alternating leg and arm as you lift, you can try that challenge too. Or you can just give me one arm leg lift and then the other arm. Perfect. All right, guys, go ahead and rest down. Grab the block off your back. Sit on back and rest for a second. So our next one is going to be on our back, and it's going to be an ab exercise. You can use your wedge, your head support. We also want a block on this one. And so with this, some people have a big fit ball and those are okay. Some people have a big yoga, big super block. Those are great. This would probably be my least favorite option, but if you had to, it works. So if anybody's done this before, we're going to do the alternating bird dog action. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay on your back. You can have a head support so that your abs are nice and engaged to the floor and you're not feeling any kinks in your neck. And then you're going to put your wedge underneath and make sure that your hips are at a nice restful position. And then put the block right on top of your thighs. And now let one leg go away from it and stay out there with that leg and feel how we want the opposite arm of that leg to come off the block. And then we're going to bring that leg up, bring that hand back down, and we're going to alternate the other release. So each time we come out, we're alternating the arm and leg away from the block as we keep a gentle push on the block with our arm, but we need to make sure that we don't feel any pulling in your back. If you feel pulling in your back, then you can drop the block and just do alternating arm and leg releasing without that extra pressure on the block. Good, let's give me one more each side. And rest. Awesome. So this next set we're going to use with the bands. So with this one, grab a band for your wrists. And we're going to do the same leg kick out option, but our arms are going to be reaching overhead. And sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame. So let's go ahead and float your legs up into position, arms above your chest. And now reach one leg long through the knee as you reach your arms overhead, paying special attention to maintaining the engagement and the crunch of those upper abs on the floor. Never flattening your back on the floor, just trying to stay released through the hips. We always want our pelvis and hips to be relaxed as we do these exercises. Use the tension on the band to help you keep yourself connected to your lats and abs. Do not try and reach higher if you feel your ribs peeking off the floor. Give me a couple more on each side. Use your exhales to go long. Inhales coming up. And go ahead and relax. Perfect. All right, so we are into a bird dog on your hands and knees now. Okay, so we did that on your back bird dog a second ago. Now let's go ahead and do it on the regular position, or in the regular position. And for this one, you want to have a block. So find your block. Slowly make yourself up, make your way up to your hands and knees. Make sure that as you place your block, that your back is not rounded or flat. We have a nice little curve under it. That way, as you go to push your chest and chin away from the ground, you'll feel that the upper abs engage, but it shouldn't knock your block over. And again, knots on shirts don't make it easy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's go ahead and make sure your knees are nice and wide and your toes are tucked under. Make sure your hands are directly underneath your armpits. And now let's lengthen one arm and leg out as long as you can while you tuck your chin and push it away from the floor. And now let's go in and out, bringing the knee and the elbow to 90 degrees at the bottom, and then reach it out again. Keep pushing through the floor. Keep pushing your body from the bent knee on the ground, and make sure that you're not sliding out over top of it. If you look down, your belly button's in the same spot as it was when we started. It should not be over top of that down knee. Good. Keep pushing the chest, the chin, the ribs away from the ground. 3, 2, and last one. Place your knee nice and wide. Place your hand wide. And let's go ahead and reach out that opposite arm and leg. Find the heel long through the middle of the knee. the elbow straight on the reaching arm, and then make that fist as you pull your shoulder blade away from that fist punch each time. Keep pushing the chest, the chin, everything away from the floor so we don't get lazy in our abs. Make sure that if we look down, our belly button's in the middle and it's not over the leg onto the floor. Let's give me 2, 1. Bring everything down. Take the block off your back. Sit on back and relax for a second. And so we're going to do 2 more things, but one more thing that's kind of strenuous or is tough. So let's go ahead and let's go down to our backs again, and you can use your head supports and your wedges. And this time I want you to grab a weight. If you don't have a weight, you can use a band. Band also works. It's a resistance for your arms. So it doesn't matter to me what you use as long as you use it with good form. Just a heads up, if you're going to use the bands, you'll be going just like this action while you're laying on your back, okay? Same action as what I'm going to do with the kettlebell, just so you understand before you start. All right, so let's go ahead and lay down and get your wedge into the position that you want it. And then turn to your side with your hips and your shoulders if you're picking up a dumbbell or a kettlebell. Make sure that whatever position you want your hands to hold it in at the top is where you grab it here, which should be thumbs around the horn, hand around a little bit of the horn and the bell. And so now use your elbow as leverage and turn everything back onto your back at once without letting the bell rest on your body. And so press the bell up. You can kind of give yourself a little wiggle if you need to find that wedge in the right position. And then float your knees up into a vertical position and bring the bell down. And now as you kick one leg up, you push the bell out. As you bring your leg back in, the bell comes back down. Again, never touching the bell to your chest or body. Use your shoulder blades to push into the floor to drive that bell up and out. Keep your ears away from your shoulders and make sure that when you do that, your ribs don't pop off the ground and feel anything in your low back. We really want to feel our abs and lats and arms working the most here. Let's go 2 more each leg. Focus on where you want to feel this. We want to feel it in our abs. We don't want to feel it in our wrists. So take tension out of wrists or elbows and put it to the abs. Good. And then when we're done, put your feet on the ground, rest your elbow on the floor, and then turn your hips and shoulders at the same time to let the bell go safely to the floor. Now, let's go ahead and lay onto your back. You can keep your head support or you can get rid of it, whatever feels best for you. We want our legs to be open, no pinching our legs together. Palms are facing upwards, but they are on the floor, or the arms are on the floor. Make sure you're not hovering them. And so now let's go ahead and I want you to reach through your middle fingers. I want you to reach through your heels. I want you to anchor your ribs into the floor as your chin stays down. And I want you to breathe and reach through every muscle in your body while your abs stay connected. Your legs lengthen, your toes pull up towards your face, your elbows lengthen, the middles of your knees lengthen. You feel your quads, you feel the stretch through your chest, and then melt and relax onto the floor. And we're going to do 1 more of those, guys. So I want you to move your hands slightly to a slightly different position. Make sure it's somewhere where you don't have any impingements or anything that's bothering it. And now let's do the same thing. Reach through your middle fingers, reach through your heels, pull your toes to your face. Keep your chin tucked away from the slugs right above you. Keep your ribs anchoring into the floor as you reach through your middle fingers, breathing those ribs into the floor without flattening your back, pulling your toes up towards you, reaching your heels through the middles of your knees for 5, breathe, 3, 2, and rest, melt into the mat. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, roll your wrists and ankles, bend your knees up, bend your arms. Rub your hands together, create a little friction and warmth, and wash your face, come back to the present, wake yourself back up. Thank you for joining me on another ab exercise, and we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, guys.